So in Australia, depending on the location, there's one thing that remains the same is that you need to get prepared for. I mean, when you go up to the Daintree and rainforest, I'll be talking about more specific things that you need to have ready for you. But regardless of the destination that you go, there's one thing that you should always be prepared for and that you should always have on you is SPF. Even in the winter, even if you're going to colder climates, don't be fooled. Even if we've got snow here, probably not as great as in your country, but we do have some ski fields. I'll talk about later as well. I've got some stats off Google, if you don't believe me, and I talk about why the sun is worse here. But what I need to talk to you about is Australia is one of the highest levels in cases of melanoma. So a lot of people die of skin cancers here because the sun is so bad. I'll talk to you about why the sun is so bad, but obviously one of the most important things is SPF. In the old days, a couple of decades ago, SPF 30 was like the highest, but because over the decades so many people dying, now got an SPF 50, and you can even get higher in some countries. In Australia, because it's such a serious thing, the government tests all SPF that is sold. So by law, no company, including any Australian companies, can just sell SPF. They can't just say, this is SPF 20. They need to prove that it's SPF 20. So each company has to pay, I think it's $10,000, Australian companies as well. And if you're an overseas company that want to import your SPF into Australia, you have to pay, if you, by law, want to sell anything that has a label of SPF on it, you have to pay $10,000 for each product for it to be tested, and it's tested by our scientists to actually check that what you're saying on the label is correct. So that's the law here. It's taken really serious. So you might find that there's some brand that you use at home and it might not be available here with SPF because not saying that it's not a good brand, but maybe the company just didn't want to pay the $10,000, so they just left Australia out of their places where they sell that particular product. So the reason why I'm saying this, to cut a long story short, is when you come to Australia, bring your SPF, but maybe just bring enough to keep you going for a day or two, and actually buy your SPF here, because 100% anything you buy in Australia, even if it's an Australian brand or it's a US spray brand that's available here, or it's a French brand that's available here, it's been tested. The fact that it's on a shelf, because the government won't let anyone in, it's actually really important, because that means it's been tested and approved for Australian conditions. Okay, that is really important, because I did have a relative come from America, and she brought a friend, and they were staying here with me for a week, and I was just sort of wondering, every time they came back from the beach, I couldn't understand why they were always burnt, even though they had the SPF with them. And then they ran out, and I gave them some stuff from Australia, and then I saw in pictures and stuff they weren't getting burnt anymore. So it's a real thing. Buy your SPF here. We've got some American brands and French brands. We've got La Roche-Posay. We've got another US brand, which I can't remember the name of. So buy it here, buy it at the chemist. I think you call it a drugstore in the US, or pharmacy. In Australia, we refer to the drugstore as a pharmacy or chemist. And you can also buy it just in the normal, stores where you buy your groceries. You can buy SPF there. Anything you buy here, you're better off using that, because that's really, really one of the main things that you should be looking for. There's also, if you're wanting to get like a face cream and an SPF in one, for when you're not going to the beach, like if you're just going sightseeing and to different tourist spots, and you don't want to put a face cream on and then an SPF that you know, looks gluggy and you know, it makes you look white. There's a few brands that you can buy that have a really top quality face cream and an SPF in the one. SPF 50, I think Natio is an Australian brand, and they make face creams. They're quite inexpensive. And also there's a higher end Australian brand called Ultraceuticals. You'll find those only in
high-end department stores such as David Jones, or I think Myer. I think they're in Myer. I think definitely in David Jones, and they've also got in some standalone stores. So they produce an incredible face cream, and it's anti-aging, and it's a really top quality cream. Plus, it has SPF, so that's good for if you're just, you know, going as a tourist in the city or going sightseeing. When you go to the beach, you'll need to use a proper one for the beach that'll stay on in the water. So they are different things. That's really important to mention. You've got brands like La Roche-Posay. I use their ones for the beach for my face because I'm quite sensitive, and La Roche-Posay is a French brand. It's available here in a variety of different chemists or drugstores or pharmacies. So that's really important. No matter where you go in Australia, that will be a staple. It's a real thing. Damage to the sun and cancer, and I'll explain in another clip why. So one of my couple of places that I'll begin with on my channel when I talk about travel is Byron Bay. I went there for the first time quite late in life, and I was quite pleasantly surprised. That's near the border of Queensland and New South Wales. That's fantastic. And another place that I don't miss out on these, and any clips that I start talking about Cairns or the Daintree Rainforest, the Cairns, my shirt, Cairns, that is something not to be missed. Any of the clips I talk about there, incredible, very special part of the world. Up Cairns is incredible, and if you do make it down to Australia, there at least go to one of those places. If you have to choose and you can't go to both, Cairns is quite incredible. It can be a bit too hot in summer, but if you happen to come to Australia in wintertime, in our wintertime, it's still hot in Cairns. It's beautiful. Like, I think it went in winter and it was 33 degrees Celsius, which is, I think, in Fahrenheit, that's like 86 or 90 degrees Fahrenheit, even in winter. So it's a wonderful place. There's places in Australia you can go in summer, which is fabulous, or in winter because it's such a big country. But yeah, the staple is, it's really serious. SPF is a serious thing. If you can buy your SPF in Australia, because then you'll know it's been tested for Australian conditions. And as I said, we've got brands from overseas here as well that have paid the $10,000 to get their stuff tested. Okay, cheers.